Okay, hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing the end of year book tag. My cat is going to be trying to destroy my tripod the entire time, but what's new? Also, you couldn't pay me to put in my contacts today. I don't know why, I just don't want to wear them, and I know if I put them in, I'm only going to wear them to film this video and then immediately take them out, and I don't want to waste them like that. So even though I hate filming in my glasses because I feel like it makes my eyes look tiny, and then also the light is distracting, whatever, you're gonna have to deal with it today. So let's just get right into it. The first question is, are there any books you've started this year that you still have to finish? Yes. Always Coming Home by Ursula K. Le Guin, finally. I've had this book for probably 2 or 3 years now, and I think I started it once and got like 100 pages in and then just like lost steam at the time. But I'm finally like actually committing to reading it. I wanted to start it on her birthday this year, and I started it like a day late. I was distracted, I wasn't in the mood to start it, but I started reading it like a couple days after her birthday, so we're gonna pretend like I started it on her birthday. So yeah, I think I've made really good progress. I'm like 60% of the way into it, probably 60, like 4-ish, and I'm really enjoying this book. I definitely see myself finishing it soon-ish, probably by the end of November at least, but I would like to finish it by the end of the year if I haven't finished it in November. It's such a fascinating work, and I absolutely would not recommend this as like an entryway into her work, but like definitely save this one to read after you've read basically like all her other work and you just want to see like the culmination of all of that. And also I really recommend reading her essay about the carrier bag theory of fiction before you read this, because I think it's like an example of what she was talking about there. I was reading some people talking about like how like they read the essay and they were like, but how can you actually write a novel like that? Like how can you actually write a story like that? Like what are some examples? And I would say this is her example. This is her showing that it is possible to write a novel in which the point is not conflict and the point is not like the journey of a great man going to war, but it's rather a collection or like a carrier bag full of people's lives and stories and art and like drama and poems. Like it's just there's so much to it, and it's all in these like, for me, pretty digestible little chunks. Like I think people who don't like story collections or don't like they need a long uninterrupted novel to sink their teeth into might not like this one, but for me, I like, you know, being able to read 10 pages of poems and then 10 pages of plays and then, you know, part of stone telling story, which is the largest narrative actually in this book, what we would probably consider like a typical story, like the most novel-esque element of this story. But I'm enjoying all the elements, and I think I'm pretty close to finishing what's called the front of the book, and then the rest of it is just kind of like world building stuff, charts, talking about time, like doing all of the world building stuff. So I'm really interested to get to that bits. So yeah, I'm just absolutely loving this. Such a, again, culmination of her work and just like really pushing the envelope of like what a novel is and can be, and I really love that. That's why I love Le Guin so much. So I will definitely finish this before the end of the year. But then also a book that I got like 10 pages into that I need to return to soon is The Two Towers. I am reading along with the Lord of the Rings saga along with some other people on Reddit right now, and I finished Fellowship pretty early, and then I've literally just been sitting with this on my bedside table 10 pages in for like weeks now. And I think it's truly just because this is a book where I would like read a chapter every night before bed. That's how I did Lord of the Rings too, and I feel like that helps me, you know, not really rush through it and just like kind of keep steady with it. But I've been doing that with Always Coming Home instead, where I read a chapter of that before bed. So this one has just kind of fallen to the wayside, but it's much shorter than Always Coming Home. Once I'm done with that one, I really feel like I can get back into this one and finish it before the end of the year, because I do also want to read The Return of the King this year, finish that out, because I'm pretty sure, yeah, you can still see this is from when I still dog-eared books. I got like, again, 20 pages into this, probably 50 pages into this, and then just never finished the series. I literally got, you know, almost to the end and I just never finished it. And I would like to finish it this year. Those are the books that I would like to finish before the end of the year. Question 2 is, do you have an autumnal book to transition into the end of the year? I do. I have A Treachery of Swans by A.B. Poranek. This is like an art copy I got at a library book sale. So I'm really intrigued to get into this one. It looks like a lot of stuff that's typically up my alley. You know, sunshine x goth girl, lesbian romance, fairy tale retelling. I'm really excited to read this one. I have put it on my fall TBR, but I've been waiting until like late November probably to read it. That it's just giving me like late November, December vibes, so this is gonna be my like transitional book. Question 3 is there a new release you're still waiting for? And I don't think so. I'm interpreting this question as in like a book that hasn't come out yet that you want to read when it comes out near the end of the year. And I think that all the books that I was really looking forward to already came out. They were coming out in like November, October, like To Clutch a Razor by Veronica Roth, which I recently read and really enjoyed, and also Queen Demon by Martha Wells, which I read and really enjoyed. I got an arc of that one and loved it, so I read that back probably like in September-ish and really enjoyed it. But I can't think of anything else that's like supposed to be coming out that I'm really excited to read. I feel like I've been really fortunate and gotten arcs of a lot of the books that I was really anticipating for like the second half of the year. So there's not really anything coming out that I really want to read. Although a new release that I haven't read yet and still want to read, I think is definitely The Everlasting by Alex E. Harrow. It's gotten such great reviews. I've had a really hit or miss experience with Alex E. Harrow before. I really did not like the 10,000 Doors of January, but I actually really loved Starling House. So I'm curious to see how The Everlasting hits for me, because it has gotten such great reviews, but also it seems a little bit more like the 10,000 Doors of January than it does like Starling House, so I'm just really curious to see how it will hit for me. I think that's about it. I think probably The Everlasting is the only book that that's a new release that I'm looking forward to. Number 3 is, what are 3 books you want to read before the end of this year? And I did restrict this one to just 3 books that I own, because I've really been trying to read the books that I own this year, and I still have quite a few on my shelves because I love a deal. I'm a deal hunter. Whenever I see a book that's available for cheap and I've vaguely heard of it and I kind of want it, I gotta get it. So I have a nice little collection here, I think, that really represents what I'm gonna be working on towards the end of the year. So I would like to read The Fall of Kings by Ellen Kushner and Delia Sherman. This is the 3rd book in the World of Riverside series, which I really love. I have Swords Point and The Privilege of the Sword, which are the first 2 books in the series. I read them, loved them. I recently reread Swords Point. I would like to reread Privilege of the Sword, and then finally read the 3rd book in this series. I still really do want to read this before the end of the year, so I hopefully will be reading this one soon. Again, I need to reread Privilege of the Sword, but she's on the docket. And then I just need to read this so I can get it out of my house. I want to read Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. I'm gonna be completely honest, I have never wanted to read this book. I have never felt any great desire to pick up this book, just because I have a pretty good handle on my own taste and what I think I'm gonna like and dislike. I don't really think I'm gonna like this book. I think it's just gonna be a little too cozy fantasy for me, the 2 genres that I just don't really like in fantasy, which is cozy fantasy and like RPG progression fantasy. If I wanted to read about setting up a coffee shop, I would just go play like a game about setting up a coffee shop, you know? If I wanted to read about D&D, I would just go play D, you know? Like, it's just not really my thing. They're not really my genres. But I do need a cozy fantasy like square filled for bingo, and again, it's just not my genre. So I have always like kind of had FOMO with this book too, where like you want to know what people are talking about, you want to be able to talk about it intelligently, criticize it intelligently if I do have major criticisms of it. I don't just want to say, you know, oh, that book sucks, like, because I don't think I'll like it, because, you know, that's not fair. And then I saw this in a little free library along with a bunch of other like cozy books. Like, someone must have gotten rid of their collection. It was really funny. And I took this one because I'm like, you know what, it's pretty short. I can blaze through this one and then just give it right back to the little free library. And that was like a month ago. So it's just putting bad energy on my shelves. It's sitting on my shelves, taking up prime real estate in the AB section, which I have a lot of authors in that area. I need to rearrange my bookshelves. So I just want to read this one and get it out of the way, and then just be able to get it out of my house and say I've read it. Need to read this one. This one is truly like my homework. So, and then I would also like to read Open Heaven by Sean Hewitt before the end of the year. And it's like, okay, I would like to read this book before the end of the year, but it's also kind of a stand-in for the various contemporary fiction / lit fic that I have on my other bookshelf, my non-fantasy, non-genre fiction bookshelf that I would like to read before the end of the year. I have several, like probably 4 or 5 or 7-ish books in that genre that I have bought and that I just have not read because I'm just a fantasy person. I love fantasy and I also love the library. Every single time I've like gotten my library stack down to something that is manageable where I'm like, okay, I can finally start feeling like I don't have to read all these library books before they take them away from me, I relapse and I put 17 books on hold and they all come in at the same time, and then I'm like, oh my god, I have to finish all these library books before I can read stuff I have at my house. We're not gonna do that in November and December. I'm done. The only hold I have left is, okay, I did put a book on hold last night. But just one, okay, just one. But other than that, all I have left is The Sword of Kaigen, which I've literally been waiting on. I've been on hold for it for months, since May. And I'm finally at the top of the list, so it's probably actually gonna get here relatively soon. But I'm not putting any more books on hold. I'm sticking with what I've got, and then I'm going to read some of my contemporary fiction and some of the fantasy also that I have on my shelf probably, but those can wait. I just really need to get through my contemporary fiction before the end of the year, get that down to like half the size because it's stressing me out and I don't want it to stress me out. But I really like the thing about my contemporary fiction is that it's also short. Like, these are little books. I can get through this in a couple hours, like a day, 2 days, like that is all I need for these. So I think I subconsciously put them off because I'm like, I'm gonna need way more time to get through like the Vorkosigan Saga omnibuses I have. So I prioritize those, and then these just like totally fall through the cracks. But this one's probably gonna be the one I start with, or maybe Orlando by Jacqueline Hartman, or one of the Hilary Mantel books I have. So this is kind of a stand-in for all my contemporary fiction, but also I would like to read this before the end of the year as well. Okay, so question number 5 is there a book you think could still shock you and become your favorite book of the year? I think maybe The Everlasting could do that if it really sticks the landing, because I've seen people really love it, but there have been books that people have really loved and have been very highly reviewed that I have ended up not liking at all. So maybe that one. But also I truly think that, like, for me, favorite books come when I'm not expecting them. Like, I totally had no idea I would love Alphabet of Thorn by Patricia McKillop as much as I loved it. That is probably one of my new favorite books this year. And then also Rake's Fall by Vajra Chandrasekhara. I don't think I ever would have read that book if it wasn't for me trying to read all the Ursula K. Le Guin nominees, and that also ended up being one of my favorite books this year. North Continent Ribbon by Ursula Witcher, which is like a tiny little short story collection from a small press. Again, I never even would have heard of this book if it wasn't for the Ursula K. Le Guin Award, and it just totally surprised me and is one of my favorites this year also. So there's always a chance that something could just come up and totally wow me. I think I probably have 1 or 2 left in me this year, so I'm just gonna sit back and let them come to me. Question 6, the final question, is have you already started making reading plans for next year? And the answer to that is fuck no. I'm not a very organized, plan focused person, especially when it comes to reading. I'm very much a mood reader. I'm very much a I heard of this book, so let me see if my library has it, and if they do, I'll put it on hold, then read it when it gets here. I very much read just like what I hear about and what I feel like in the moment. I do still want to continue to do like reading challenges, because I do think that those are a really good way for me to start reading outside of my comfort zone, to keep reading books that maybe I wouldn't have picked up otherwise, but that I end up really liking. Like, there are so many books I've read this year that I maybe wouldn't have picked up otherwise, or wouldn't have heard of otherwise, or would have assumed I wouldn't like otherwise, that I ended up reading for like bingo challenges and ended up really loving them. So I would like to continue doing that to try to keep me reading outside of my comfort zone, but I don't really have any lists of like books that I want to read next year or like new releases that I'm looking forward to. I would also again like to read the Le Guin Prize nominees, which usually don't get announced until like the middle of summer, so I have time for those. But those are basically my very vague plans for next year. But other than that, no. I'm just gonna read what appeals to me in the moment. Okay, so that was my end of year book tag. Thank you so much for joining me with this one. Have you read any of these books that I am going to read by the end of the year? Do you have any books that you think I should read by the end of the year? What are your reading plans for next year? Let me know in the comments, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!